You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And today we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals first-round draft selection, Dax Hill. Big-time, versatile defensive back. Can play safety and can play safety deep middle, in the box. Can play slot corner. Can cover a slot receiver. Can blitz from the slot. Very versatile guy. And in the AFC North, he could also be a spy. You get some quarterbacks that can run. This guy runs 4.38. We're going to talk about him and what he brings to the Cincinnati Bengals defensive football team, coordinated by Lou Anarumo. And then we're going to maybe talk what might happen in rounds 2 and 3. All that coming your way. Thanks for joining us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics from our outstanding studios, as always, at First Star Logistics. And we're going to review, first of all, the Bengals' first-round draft pick, Dax Hill. Honestly, I think they were pleasantly surprised, probably stunned, that he was there at 31. They thought he was going to be off the board. There's no question about it. You have a kid that has played safety and slot corner in the nickel packages that runs a 4.38. There's not a safety in the National Football League that runs a 4.38. And his 10-yard split was 1.5. I mean, his 3-cone was outstanding. I mean, he can change direction. He's just not a straight line speed guy. He can sink his hips. He can flip his hips. He can play. I mean, the Bengals are going to find out once he comes on board. Can he go all the way outside and play corner in some packages? But what he is what Lou Anarumo covets. He's a positionless player. Lou Anarumo wants as much position versatility as he can possibly get. Let's think back to last year, down the stretch, against the Baltimore Ravens, against the Kansas City Chiefs, and teams of that nature. His packages were incredible. And what he did, without having to substitute personnel, he gave Patrick Mahomes more looks than Patrick Mahomes could handle. He had Sam Hubbard playing defensive end. He had him lined up as a linebacker and spying. He had him sometimes kicked inside, playing defensive tackle as a 3 technique. That's position versatility. Logan Wilson, he had him at linebacker. Then he would have him lined up as a pass rusher, as a defensive end, and Sam Hubbard at linebacker. Just changing positions with those two guys. I mean, unbelievable what he was able to do because of the versatility that these guys provided Lou Anarumo athletically. Dax Hill fits that model. I'm not sure if I call him a safety or a corner. I call him a defensive back. I think he's going to be able to play multiple positions and fill multiple roles for Lou Anarumo. With that 4.38 speed, he's got the range to play deep center field, and nothing's going to get behind the guy. He also, though, is very physical, and he's not afraid to stick his nose in there. Now, he's not a weight room marvel where when he hits people, their teeth are loosened. He's not that kind of guy, but he does get people on the ground. And as a slot corner, he's been a very effective blitzer from Michigan, coming off the edge. This guy he gives you a myriad of options. I mean, he's a heck of a chess piece. He puts a lot of tools in your tool belt with just one football player. He can play various roles that you normally would need to substitute personnel, and then if you take a chance on that, or if the offense substitutes personnel, you don't have to substitute to match up with them. I mean, it gives the defensive coordinator an opportunity to go into his lab and get some beakers and get some test tubes and put together, a mad scientist defensive package for football teams. The other thing about him in this division, with the mobile quarterbacks that are now in this division that can really run. I mean, they're like running backs that are able to throw the football. He's another candidate to be a spy and mirror that quarterback's every move. He can do that because the guy runs 4.38. Nobody's going to outrun the guy. And Lou Anarumo has used various people as a spy. He's used Logan Wilson as a spy. He's used Sam Hubbard as a spy. He's used Von Bell as a spy. This kid, Dax Hill, can be a spy as well. And they ran a lot of three safety packages last year. Trey Flowers covered the tight end in the three safety package. Dax Hill can run with any tight end with the speed that he has. So it's very. Let's put it this way: when he was still there at 31, there was no hesitation. And the way the draft unfolded, it was very interesting because down the stretch, there were some pretty good players on the board still. Johnson was there. Karloftis was there. Wyatt was there. The three technique interior defensive lineman for Georgia. Very good players. Bengals could have used any and all of them. Uh, Booth was still there, and he still is. As we're doing this podcast, the second round hasn't started yet, but Booth was there as a corner. So they had a bunch of options, and lo and behold, there he was, still available to him. So it was an easy selection for the Cincinnati Bengals to make. The other thing about this guy, he was academic all Big Ten twice. So he's got raw intelligence. He's got football IQ, tremendous football intelligence to be able to fill as many roles as he plays, to be as versatile as he plays as a football player. That's a big part of his game as well. His older brother, Justice, was a running back at Oklahoma State and got drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. So he's got an older brother that helped him get ready for adjusting to life in college football. At the Big House, Michigan, he played in front of big crowds. He played in the Big Ten, a Power Five conference. He's not going to be intimidated by life in the National Football League. And his brother's going to help him adjust to life in the National Football League as well. So there's so many things to like about Dax Hill. There's no question about it. And Cincinnati Bengals are very excited and feel very fortunate that Dax Hill is going to be part of this football team. And Lou Anarumo is going to let the creative juices flow because this guy can do a lot of things. Want to remind everybody that on Saturday, April 30th at noontime for an hour, noontime Eastern Standard Time for an hour, we're going to be doing a live stream that's going to be reviewing the draft at that juncture. The Cincinnati Bengals, we'll be talking 3 rounds that will be done at that point in time. And then we'll be talking about the final 4 rounds that are going to take place later that day, rounds 4 through 7. So live stream for an hour. Joe Goodberry is going to be our guest, and Joe Goodberry is up to speed and up to snuff on everything in terms of the NFL draft. So that'll be some good conversation. So we want to let you know that get your questions ready. We'll be wanting to hear from you, hear your reactions, hear your thoughts on things. Dax Hill, obviously, will be a big area, a big point of emphasis, but also the second and third round picks. So the second and third round picks are about to unfold here in just a little bit. We are doing this podcast on Friday before those picks are finalized and executed. But the Bengals, I think, are in a good spot because really they got a very versatile defensive back. Some of their needs are still on the board. They can still draft a cornerback. There's no question in my mind that at some point in time, they're going to draft a true outside cornerback, and their quarterback's still on the board. Now, they're not going to be on there very long. Guys like Andrew Booth, he'll be gone very shortly. Guys like Kyler Gordon will be gone. Roger McCreary will be gone. The guy that will be interesting to me out of Nebraska, Cam Taylor Britt. This guy's 5'10", 196 pounds. He also ran a 4.28. Interesting. I mean, he could be on the board for the Cincinnati Bengals at the end of the second round. That's about where I think a lot of people have him forecasted, end of 2, beginning of 3. That's a possibility. I think Kobe Bryant is a little bit down the road from that, but Kobe Bryant out of Cincinnati is a cornerback that they'd potentially think about. Marcus Jones, he's going to be an interesting one from Houston. He's 5'8", 174 pounds. So 5'8", you think, oh, you're not going to take, like a third-round pick on him. Well, you might. Why? He's got 6 kickoff return touchdowns, 3 punt return touchdowns in his collegiate career. Darren Simmons is looking for the next big return guy for the Cincinnati Bengals that can establish field position favorably for the Bengals offense for Joe Burrow. And if he takes to the house, so be it. Not bad if your special teams can score. So he's got some value there. There's no question about it. So those are maybe some corner prospects that could be there in the next couple of days. There's edge rush guys. There's a few left that aren't going to be there for very long. Out of Penn State, you got Abakati, and he's not going to be there very long. He won't be there until the end of the second round. Logan Hall from Houston, big 6'6", 283-pounder who can play inside and outside. Ojabo is there from Michigan. I'm not sure that he's going to be there very long as well, but that's another guy on the edge that you'd have to think about. Drake Jackson out of USC, Maffei out of Minnesota. Maffei is another one, 6'3.5", over 260 pounds, runs a 4.5 40. I mean, that's pretty darn significant. I'm not sure how many of these are going to be available to the Cincinnati Bengals at the end of the second round. Josh Paschal out of Kentucky. This kid is just a hard-nosed, blue-collar edge guy. Alex Wright out of UAB, 6'5", over 270 pounds, 82, almost an 83-inch wingspan. It's like trying to block a condor. It's like trying to block an octopus. You just can't get to his body. These are some guys that might be there on the edge in the next couple of days for the Cincinnati Bengals. And then inside, Travis Jones as a defensive tackle from Connecticut, he'll probably be gone. 6'4" plus, 325 pounds. He'll probably be gone pretty quickly. Perrion Winfrey out of Oklahoma is an interesting one to me. 6'3.5", 290 himself. He's got some serious length. His arms are 35 1/4, and his wingspan's 84 3/8. That is unbelievable. That might be one of the longest in the draft. So this guy keeps you away from his body as well. DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M, almost 6'4", 280-pounder. He's projected as a late 2, early 3rd round guy. These are some of the guys that the Cincinnati Bengals might be thinking about on the defensive side of the football. Offensively, how about I'm going to talk about 2 guys. Trey McBride, tight end. If he's there at the end of the second round, you might think about him. He won the John Mackey Award. He's the best tight end in college football, Colorado State. He'll block at the end of the line of scrimmage, and he's a good route runner, and he's got outstanding hands, and he gets something done after the catch as well. A sleeper for me, Linderbaum went at number 25 to the Baltimore Ravens, and that was the pick that went to the Bengals in a ton of mock drafts before the draft. Tyler Linderbaum. That's all you heard about going to the Cincinnati Bengals. How about a Tyler Linderbaum of the second round, in my opinion, at the center position? Cam Jurgens. Cam Jurgens was a tight end, went to high school in Nebraska, was the number 1 recruit coming out of the state of Nebraska, 7th ranked tight end in the country, went to University of Nebraska. They converted him to center. This guy gets downfield 20 yards and pancakes people. He's very athletic. In high school, he was a 3-time state champion in the shot put, 4-time state champion in the discus. He was honorable mention All-State in basketball, All-State in football. He put the shot over 63 feet. He threw the discus over 196 feet. This guy is a very athletic center. And you know what he could do? You're trying to find snaps for guys. If you draft a guy that high as you're developing him, why not utilize him as a 3rd or 4th tight end in short yardage goal line? He played tight end. He was an all-state tight end. This guy can block on the edge. He can catch passes for you in short yardage and goal line situations. It's not like throwing to a tackle, that's never really caught the football or played tight end in his high school or collegiate career. This guy gives you a little bit of a little bit of juice in that area as well. You know, at least there's something that he can contribute with. And the way he, as big as he is, and the way he can run, he can play some special teams for Darren Simmons as well. Kickoff return for sure, extra point field goal, all that sort of thing. So, I mean, I wouldn't be upset if the Bengals drafted Cam Jurgens at the end of the second round. The defensive coaches might. I think the defensive coaches are looking for, all right, we've got ourselves, uh, you know, basically a positionless defensive back on the back end with the first round pick. Let's take an edge rush guy in the second round or a defensive tackle, 3 technique. We're down a guy there with Ogunjobi leaving, or let's take the cover corner on the outside. So you could really see the Cincinnati Bengals going all 3 rounds defensively. But if somebody slides in there offensively, the couple of guys I just talked about, I wouldn't be upset about. It all is how the board talks to you. Who's the best player left on the board? The Bengals took the best player left on the board. They had him rated in the teens, and he was there at 31. They had him on their board in the teens. Got to go with it. Got to take him. And the other thing is, as you look at it, the killer bees, Jesse Bates and Bell, they're both in the last year of their contract. So, are you going to be able to keep them both? That would be a very ambitious thing for both of them to be kept, particularly when you got young wide receivers like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase down the road. And you have your quarterback, Joe Burrow. I know the next TV contract is coming, and it'll affect the salary cap. Well, it better be a ton of money because Joe Burrow is going to be making $40 million a year, and you maybe get a couple of receivers that could be approaching $20 million a year, and you can't pay everybody. I mean, that's just life in the National Football League. So you basically start to draft for positions where you may be down a guy because of the economics of the game. It's not because these guys aren't all great players, because you just can't afford them all. The way salaries are going up. Look at the trades that were made during the draft in the first round. The receivers that were traded, the receivers that had been traded before the draft, they can't afford to pay them, so they move on elsewhere. And that team can fit them in their salary cap because they don't have as an expensive a quarterback in their payroll or whatever the case may be. It's an interesting league. There's a lot of massaging that has to go on with respect to salary cap when you're building rosters. So a lot of things to consider for sure. We haven't even got to rounds 4 through 7 yet. And let's talk the final thing. Let's talk about the Bengals didn't trade back at 31. And I can understand why they didn't. If you've got a guy there in the teens, take him. If he's there at 31, take him. Okay. 63. Do they trade back the second round pick? 4 out of the last 5 drafts, Duke Tobin has traded out of the second round. The only time he didn't trade out of the second round was at number 33 when the Bengals took T. Higgins, first pick of the second round. Turned out to be a very good decision. But since 2017, 4 out of 5 times Duke Tobin has traded back in the second round. Will he trade back in this second round? I think that the sweet spot of the draft is all the way into the 4th and early 5th round. So if you can pick up an extra 4th rounder or an extra 5th rounder in the early stages of those rounds, you're still going to have very good football players at your disposal. If he doesn't trade back in the second round today, what about trading back in the 3rd round? That's a possibility as well. And you're still looking at hitting the sweet spot of the draft with 2 picks instead of just 1, going 2 for 1. So the phone's going to be ringing. The phones are always ringing, but the value has to be there. And Duke Tobin and everybody has to feel comfortable that if they do trade back, there's going to be multiple options for them, not just one guy, but multiple guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how the draft unfolds here in the 2nd and 3rd round in day 2 of the 2022 NFL draft on Friday, April 29th.